In this video, we're going to be looking at something that is breathing under my bed. This was originally shared by a user on Reddit, and in their own words, they said that this has been happening for weeks, and it's driving me crazy. It's always there when I come into the room, but never when anyone else is in here. So obviously, this person goes on to say that they have a dog and a cat. But the thing is, the dog doesn't seem to react to this at all. You can see in these videos that there are two different types of sounds being made. There's a softer gurgling type sound, and then there's also a louder rasping sound that happens every now and then. And if you listen very closely, it does almost sound like there's some kind of breathing motion going on underneath the bed. Now, it might just sound like a bit of air moving around, but you can see in the video how still the blanket is. If you look closely enough, you hello! Also notice that the blanket sort of twitches from side to side in time with whatever is breathing under the bed. Now, before we go any further, take a look at the actual Reddit post, because there is more videos attached there that really do make things a lot creepier. The poster then goes on to say that the first time this happened was right after they moved into their new house. They said they thought it was just settling noises, but then when it continued, they started to investigate. They said that they checked under the bed and even lifted up the actual bed to see if anything had gotten trapped under there. Unfortunately, though, nothing could be found. They then go on to say that the second video was recorded in their office, which is actually right next door to their bedroom. Apparently, this sound can sometimes be heard in other rooms too. Then in a comment, they were asked whether or not they had checked the air vents, to which our original poster replied saying no, but that they would definitely check this tomorrow. In another comment, they said that this only seems to happen when nobody is in the room, which is why they think that maybe it's just their dog who is making a noise while laying on the floor. But again, the dog doesn't seem to react to the noise whatsoever. So what do you think? Is it really just the dog who's making all of these weird noises? Personally, if I was in this situation, I would definitely check out the air vent. After all, if it's coming from the air vent, it would make sense as to why it can be heard in multiple different rooms. It would also explain why it stops whenever someone enters the room. However, since our original poster said that they haven't been able to figure it out, I guess that means that it wasn't the answer. But let me ask you this. Would you want to find out? Because the next story that we're going to be looking at, they ended up finding out exactly what was making the noise, and it was absolutely terrifying. This creepy story was originally shared by a user on the No Sleep sub, and it begins with a writer arriving home from work one evening and hearing a knock inside of his house. He says that he lives in an old farmhouse that makes plenty of creaks and moans, so he didn't think much of it at the time. However, over the next few days, the knocking continued to happen at random times. Eventually, the knocking became so frequent that it started to drive the poster insane. So he decided that he just needed to get to the bottom of it once and for all. Armed with a baseball bat, he started to systematically check every single room in the house, even checking behind pictures on the wall and large pieces of furniture. But each time he checked, the knocking would stop. Then, as he was checking the spare bedroom, he noticed that the rocking horse in the corner was rocking back and forth ever so slightly, and then he heard it again, the distinct sound of someone knocking on wood. So he grabbed the rocking horse and pulled it out from the corner. That is, when he noticed a small hole that had been drilled into the floorboards directly underneath where the rocking horse had been standing. At first, he assumed that it was just a rabbit hole that had been made by some kind of animal. But then he looked closer and realized that it was far too small for any kind of animal to have crawled through. Instead, it looked like whoever had made the hole had done so using some kind of key or a small drill bit. That's when he looked down the hole and noticed something horrifying staring back at him. The creature that stared back at him had beady eyes and long, sharp teeth. It looked a bit like a hyena or a wolf, except that its fur was matted and patchy. At first, the creature snarled at him, but then it did something that completely shocked him. The creature reached out a clawed hand and gently touched his ankle. He says that this gesture was so human-like that it made him question everything he thought he knew about the paranormal. Of course, this is a horror story, so you know that things are not going to end well for our protagonist. As the story continues, he goes on to say that this encounter left him traumatized, and he soon began having nightmares about the creature trying to drag him down the hole. He couldn't take it anymore, so he called up a local animal removal service and explained the situation to them. The guy on the phone was skeptical, but he agreed to come over and take a look. When the animal removal specialist arrived, he was equally as skeptical, but eventually agreed to help him seal the hole in the floorboards. As they were working, the poster noticed that the specialist kept glancing over his shoulder as if he was expecting something to pop out at him. And then the unthinkable happened. While sealing the hole, the creature suddenly lunged out at them, knocking the specialist's wrenched out of his hand. The animal removal specialist instantly grabbed a nearby broom and swung it at the creature, who promptly retreated back down the hole. Now, knowing that they were dealing with a wild animal, the animal removal specialist brought out his real weapon, a large net. After setting the net up, he and the poster both waited patiently for the creature to pop its head back out, and when it did, the poster screamed. As the net came down, the creature let out a blood-curdling screech and disappeared back into the darkness. From that moment on, the poster never heard from the creature again. However, he did leave us with one final creepy line. He said that sometimes at night he still hears the faint scratching of claws on wood, as if the creature is trying to dig its way out once more. So do you believe in creatures such as Bigfoot or the Loch Ness Monster? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you want to see my short videos, then check out my other content. Thanks for watching.